Hello, and welcome to another episode of TacoBytes, your daily bite of Degen, episode 532. And we are live with base swap decks and Andy Singleton from Sweeper Finance, which is going to be an amazing time today. Gentlemen, good morning. GM.
Good morning. Good to be here.
Hi.
Good to have you guys here. How is everything starting for you guys?
That's going well for me. I had to fight a 2-year-old for about 30 minutes this morning because he wanted a popsicle for breakfast. But other than that, it's been a good day. Good day.
I want a popsicle for breakfast. What? Is this not allowed?
No, not
at 2?
No, not at 2.
Okay. All right. Andy, how is your morning going?
Going well. We're walking through our release of Sweep on a number of different blockchains. I will report that Uniswap is essentially down on Arbitrum, Polygon, and Optimism because their graph protocol that they depend on for things like LPUIs is not in routing is not working. So base swap is way ahead of them today.
Yeah. Congrats to base swap. It's weird how we talk about decentralization so much and different Oracle services and distributed compute power, yet we rely on one SQL, the graph, to provide services for so much infrastructure. And if it just goes down, no one has a turn on switch to turn backups.
And I was in the SaaS business where this problem was endemic, that if your database got screwed up, and we were on AWS, and sometimes their storage would slow down and get screwed up, and my SaaS services would crash. It takes a long time to recover from that because you're moving huge amounts of data over. Data grows much faster than network capacity. And that's the situation that Uniswap and Graph are in now, that they're moving a lot of data and indexing it on what are really narrow network pipes. So it was interesting. I was stuck for days over a noodle shop in Hanoi trying to fix that, getting, death threats. So you know how they feel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing for us is we actually built a back end as a backup for, if subgraphs do go down, you've got somewhere for that data to pull. You can't rely on just one point of failure. I mean, that somebody as big as Uniswap, you would think that you would have a back end, coded in place and not allow yourself to rely. And I think that's a big issue in this industry is we tend to rely on what's very easy, and then you just keep building. You never think about like, all right, well, what if this goes down, right? What if this crashes? So. Happy base swaps up and running and not having to deal with that, because we use the graph too, but we have back ends in place. So
it is cool to see the graph provide such great basic layer infrastructure for so many protocols, and it's open source. Anyone can use it, but it's interesting to see how much it's grown. But it sucks that it can just be one. I think Andy was doing some deep diving on it. It was one token that caused it to crash. Andy, is that what your research found?
That's what the Uniswap people are saying. A token with a weird number of decimals, where they're trying to get the tiniest Satoshis of meme token.
Man. It's an interesting piece. So Madrid, we are here to talk about base swap decks. But you do a little bit more than base swap decks.
Yeah.
What's been your journey in Web3?
So we started out actually, my crew and my team, we started out on Arbitrum actually. We were my team, we've been together for many years. We actually started out back on Phantom blockchain, doing tune forks and, just the most degen of degen projects because people just loved them. and the last bull run. And, eventually you get to the point where you want to start building something that's more sustainable and actually generates revenue and is just not like a Ponzi scheme where you're taking money and just transferring it back and forth. And so we decided, after, a couple years of working together, that we were going to deploy DEX, and Arbitrum was, really, really starting to thrive. And so we started out with Arbitrum and made Arbidex. We actually got a grant from the Graph back when we started that to use their infrastructure. And then we saw Base coming up, and we're big fans of Optimism. We hadn't built on Optimism before, and just seeing Coinbase be such a it's definitely, I would say, the most used, largest CX in the U.S. And seeing the ability that they would have to bring new users, we decided to jump right in, and we were here on the ground floor. Been very, very successful since day one, and now we're actually branching out to Mode Network, another op stack, and launching that today. So
what attracted you to Mode?
Yeah, so Mode is very interesting. And it's probably one of the coolest things I've seen before. So Mode is actually, it is built on the op stack, so same exact kind of setup as Base, but they're actually doing sequencer fee revenue share, right? So all of the sequencer fees, all of the gas that our DEX generates and uses, we actually get a cut of that directly. It's automatic, it's decentralized. So every time somebody does a transaction, it's automatically kicking us a portion of that gas fee. And to have that form of additional revenue that you can use to tie back into a DEX, nobody's really had that before, right? There hasn't been a chain that's doing that sequencer fee.
So Phantom pitched a similar program. Mm-hmm. What did you think about theirs, or have you seen that?
I have seen it. I thought it was cool. I think it was a little too late, considering Phantom had already had such a monstrous, with Andre coming back, leaving, that it was just, it's cool, but I think that the ecosystem had already kind of taken a bit of a hit. And so I think it's really kind of hard to try to pull builders back once, after the multi-chain fiasco and all of that. It's just really hard to like say, all right, I want to go back and build on Phantom. Some builders they've done very well, very happy for them. But that's just, for us, I think we want to go with something that's fresh and doesn't necessarily have a kind of screwed up history to look back on, at the moment. I love Phantom. Phantom was probably one of my favorite chains.
Well, they do have a positioning, right? So the L2s are kind of held back in finality by writing to Ethereum. It's a deep technical dive, right? But since our protocol Sweep is designed to be very easy to bridge, so those bridges cost us time. And like an L1 doesn't write to Ethereum like Phantom. They're just cranking up the finality dial in terms of speed. So I'm sort of interested in that aspect of what they're doing.
Yeah, I understand. I get it.
Yeah, no, it like Andy was saying, when we had talked, like Phantom has that, I really love chains that are starting to recognize the work of devs. Scroll is going to be doing the same thing. And a lot of chains and projects are recognizing builders, because there's so many times that people have built things, deployed things. Optimism was one of the first major ones with their retrograde, funding and stuff like that, there's politics involved in that. But like any governance piece, you could sort of, the first round gets taken over by the whales, and then round 2 and 3, the people sort of say, not this time, Satan, not today.
Yeah.
Speaking
of the retro, we actually received a small grant. We received about 25,000 op tokens, and that's something we're very, very thankful for. Our team, this would be, the grant gave us a little small grant, but that was to be used, for the calls on the network. It wasn't actually a grant for us to use. Yep. And so this would be the first time that we've received a grant like that, and we're very, very thankful. Our team, I look at some of these bigger projects. I mean, I'll when you mention some people like maybe Velodrome or Aerodrome or Pancake Swap. They have so much funding, so much money that's poured into them. And our team are just, normal guys that, were working, 9-to-5 jobs that, we quit our jobs to do this full time and didn't get a handout from anybody. And so to be recognized for what we've contributed to the space is it really makes us feel good. We thought we were going to get a little bit more, but we were thankful for what we got, and I see some of the big guys, they get millions of dollars and they're like, oh, that's not enough. Why did this person get that? That really speaks to the character of some builders in the space. With, like you said, the first guys get the first one, the whales soak it up, and then the next one, and then the next one, and this last one, I think it was very fair. So we were very thankful for that. And building on mode, we are able to receive that retro for what we do in mode as well, just like we were on base because it's on the op stack. So very, very, very excited. Very cool stuff.
Congrats. That's as you spoke out about shouting out to people, I want to take a quick moment and thank everyone for joining us on LinkedIn, 0x Degens YouTube, Player One Taco YouTube, Telegram, Twitch, Unlonely, which is built on base, Rumble, Kick, and Telegram. And then those that are joining us via Twitter, please know that if you are joining us on the Twitter space, you are happy to come up and ask questions and, learn more about base swap, learn more about sweep. And we're going to deep dive a little bit into this today and show off, because don't you guys have a new front end?
Yes, we do. Now we are rolling it out on mode. We haven't rolled it out on the base swap UI just yet. We're trying to roll that out. But if you you can take a quick little peek at swapmode.fi and
swapmode.fi.
Yeah.
All right. We'll go straight to that. We did post out as always, I love to talk about safety of following links and stuff like that. Starting off with the Twitter. Base swap Dex is a great place to swap. They have their link tree to everything. So don't forget to update this into your guys' link tree. But yeah. So the color scheme you guys went with follows into line with the mode. Almost like they're following in like prime colors in a way.
Yeah.
Chartreuse, all right.
Yeah.
And so we went with a very cool side navigation versus just the traditional like Pancake Swap, Uniswap top bar. Now there are many links that are not there right now that will be added today because we're finalizing deployment of farms, redemption, yield boosting, things of that nature. Now that's the official mode bridge that you would have to use. That's not our bridge, but
okay. Yeah, no.
Man, that's what we were building this UI for base swap, and then as we shifted towards mode, we obviously we want to go ahead and use the new thing that we're building, not deploy the older one. So it's gonna have a lot of cool updates. There's still more work to do, but yeah. So nice. Base swap is meant like what we're building, that network selector also. We actually disabled being able to choose the chains because we are gearing towards a multi-chain setup to where you can just go to any chain. And we had it to where when you would switch to base, it would show all your base farms and all of that stuff on the swap mode UI. So we disabled that.
Okay.
But it's just kind of like a teaser as to what is to come. That we've got everything so nicely integrated to where even switching the chains, it was pulling the data that you want to see in a real multi-chain setup. So
now wasn't one of your guys' first tokens that put you on the map? Like when base went live, base was fun. I used the dev bridge, the contract address. you know,
Send it to this wallet. We promise you'll get it.
Yeah. But it was really interesting how Base built out the swap. One of the first bridges that did a self to self transaction of how it showed up on scanners. And so that was a really interesting thing, and brings a whole different idea to it. If people are thinking about the transference from self to self rather than to a contract address, which then disperses back to them. And you know, it literally is moving money from your left pocket to your right pocket, and that's what it looks like on chain.
That's a much more
Speaking of
trustless
sort of
experience.
bridging and swapping on mode, what are the tokens that are going to be available?
So right now, USDC, USDT, DAI. One thing I'm really excited about that we still don't have on Base is Rat Bitcoin. So the bridge is almost when you look at it, it's very, very similar. I mean, you have to bridge in and out of op stacks the
so
same
that's
way.
the USDC that's coming through the canonical bridge from Ethereum mainnet.
Yeah. And so, you know, just those are the basic coins that are.
So I just want to talk about sort of like some differences here in the multi-chain thought. So you guys are going and putting a different swap on each chain, which gives you a chance to sort of ignite the farms for that swap. Yeah. And with Sweep, we have one coin and one UI that works on all the chains. So the underlying theory is one coin to save, so you earn interest, to swap, we're in the roots on your favorite chain, and to bridge. You can move around through the fast layer 0 mint burn bridge. But that might hold us back, right, in terms of generating community. So I want to learn a lot about, you know, how you you're talking about bringing up the farms on mode and getting the degens excited about that. I want to learn from that, and I want to do that with Base Swap.
Yeah, we're excited to do it with Sweep. So there's a few different game theories that come into play, right? So I would say that there's the overall goal for us, and I think that it's easier to create something somewhat fresh on a different chain, right? Versus trying to spread your emissions as a native DEX token to make them lucrative enough to pull in users, right? You know, like, so the only way that we would be able to attract, like, let's say, for example, we wanted to use B-Swap on mode, we could bridge it, but then we would have to set up a liquidity pool, and then you're opening yourself up to cross-chain arbitrage, which typically pulls liquidity out, drains liquidity out, because you don't have a buy or sell tax. And it's not a stable coin. It's a volatile asset, right? So that's something that you really kind of expose yourself when it comes to, you know, something that would be stable in comparison to what Sweep is doing. That's kind of a different animal, right? Like you're able to, you know, set up different liquidity pools, and it's not you're not running the risk of arbitrage pulling that liquidity out.
Well, we actually like that, because that helps. That's what moves the money between savers on one chain and borrowers on another. So that's actually the service we're bringing to these new chains. Is that ARBs and aggregators will move money. So yeah, we like that, and that's a way for it's expensive, right? Having liquidity is expensive, but if we're trying to get good roots in the AMMs, that's a cost that we have to bear, I think, to deliver the value.
Yeah, I agree with that. 100%. You know, something that we would like to do long term, and the thoughts of multi-chain, or we've kind of called it our omni-dex or omni-chain dex, is to have one token that we would actually distribute across different chains, similar to, you know, how SushiSwap or PancakeSwap have been able to bring their you know, native DEX emission token across. One thing that kind of limits that is just having enough liquidity to substantiate that or sustain that. So we do plan on doing something like that in the future. It would be a very, very large raise. So we'd probably do like a few $1,000,000 compared to when you do these, smaller individualized chains. You can do a couple 100,000, and that really kick starts the momentum.
So I'd love to collaborate with you on the strategizing of that, and maybe figure out how that would work.
Omni tokens paired with Sweet.
Well, we'll actually be leading in that mechanism where we have a sweeper governance token that we've exercised and used for governance, and I'll drop some alpha here. We will be doing a release of that. That's an omni-chain token that will go out. It'll be usable for things like rewards on a lot of blockchains, even if you can only vote it on Arbitrum.
Yeah.
And so the dynamic you talked about, well, when do we distribute it? And does it get sucked back into one liquidity pool? Yeah, it's kind of interesting, right? Are we fragmenting liquidity? But the other thing that's interesting is, can we expand our channel? Can we place some of it on base swap and some of it on lots of other Uni v3 channels where we can offer it with single-sided liquidity? Does that expand our channel? And it's the same thing that you just were thinking about.
Yeah, I love it.
What do you think?
I love it. I love it. I think it'll be great. I think that we got a lot we're going to be able to do together for sure.
And I come from the aspect, I like to say I'm chain agnostic. And so when you get these projects that just sort of look to extract value and suck people into just one spot, when there's things that are building on so many different chains. So when projects go multi-chain, I think that helps users get ready for, in a way, you're providing a central location for someone to bridge and, be that hub, that community hub for people. So you sort of help expand your users' minds rather than just saying, oh, you can only stay here, you can't go anywhere else, and that's one of those really cool things to see you guys doing that, So with base swap, you guys started off your first token, your first DEX token was BSwap, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you guys did some cool stuff with that where you did a vesting on it as well to BSX eventually. What was that journey like?
Yeah, so we launched BSwap. And that was our original token, and we actually turned that into our governance token. And then we deployed a second token called BSX, which has the vested XBSX version. Now, the mindset behind that was, we actually had been working and trying to create this cycle of liquidity, and between these two tokens. So the only way that you can earn BSwap is through the native BSX token, which in the farms, you're getting only 20% of the liquid token. Now, the idea of that is to, essentially have TVL there that's going to generate swap fees, but is not going to necessarily be able to just liquidly dump. You've got reasons to hold your XBSX. You can boost farms with your XBSX. You can stake in the real yield stakers and earn, wrapped ETH or USDC. And so the mindset was to create a more stable ecosystem. Now, the BSwap token was renounced, right? And that's something that we take very seriously. We've been in this space a long time. I think all of us have seen 100 rugs where the guys are like, oh, don't worry, we've got ownership of the token. So when we deployed, BSwap was renounced to the given ownership to the master chef, which you can't pull back. So that kind of limited our ability once we started down this journey of wanting to create, the vested and yield boosting and all of that. We were limited by that because we can't change anything with it. So that's what kind of brought the BSX into play. And the way that we gave utility to BSwap is basically by making it the governance token and giving it as a reward to BSX farmers, right?
Yeah.
So BSX is distributed to all the farms, and BSwap is distributed to BSX. And so that's kind of how we came to this 2-token ecosystem. It's not, if, when what we're doing on Mode, we're not doing it that way. Because we're able to take what we've created on BaseSwap and basically deploy it anew without some of the limitations that we had here. So
and it's because you guys now are coming up on a year soon, right?
Yeah,
from being on testnet into being live.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
So you guys have that. You have not only no longer you are a first mover advantage, but you have first mover and experience.
Mm-hmm.
So you're taking your lessons that you learned, and I've seen you guys grow. You were originally just a V2, nice, simple, and easy. And I hate to say this, you were BaseSwap, you were basic, you were easy.
Mm-hmm.
And now, and so you were the infrastructure for Base as it grew out. You guys were up there to like almost $30 million a day.
Yeah.
We're
really, really cranking.
Yeah. And we've seen other projects grow out. We've seen a lot of other swaps start to build up. We've seen the aerodromes come now because they're like, oh, it's here to stay. And sort of stuck up a lot of TVL. And you guys have done some really cool partnerships to, I don't necessarily say reward yourselves, but to address and be there for users. You've done, and you're around like, you have TVL farms in like Beefy. Where else have you guys found some cool partnerships?
Harvest Finance, that's another auto compounder. They're really cool guys. Their mechanism's a little different to where it auto compounds, but reserves your XBSX so that you can go use it for whatever you want to use. So you go claim that and you can go yield boost it elsewhere. DeFi Edge, so that would be our automated concentrated liquidity providers. Those guys have been great. We actually, it's funny, back when we started out on Arbitrum, DeFi Edge was completely unknown and not used by anyone. And we were really, really big and thriving on Arbitrum. And so we tied ourselves with them and, kind of helped them get their initial exposure. And now they are, essentially on every top DEX that there is now, which is, it's really cool. And that's something I think that, for us, we've always been the little guy that didn't get that. And so to be able to do that with other guys and honestly, to not even realize that we're doing it, is really rewarding. So, Friend Pet, those guys have probably one of the coolest games out, on Base. We're happy that, we're the host of their liquidity. We freely have given them some emissions. Some DEXs require bribes and this and that. I think for us, our goal is to help grow the ecosystem. And so what we're really trying to do is just kind of give some of those pick-me-ups, right?
Yeah.
And so like we don't always need somebody to say, you've got to give me something for me to give you something, right? Obviously it is business, and us being able to take in some swap fees that is kind of the exchange there. But somebody sometimes can just be the guy that's like, hey, I'm gonna help you out. And so we're happy that we're one of those guys.
Yeah. And so one of the things that you guys have that sets you apart is you redistribute some of your platform fees back to users that stake their BSX or their BSwap. Yeah. You're handing it back out in USDBC, wrapped ETH. How much are you guys? How much are your emissions on that per day, or is that a metric that more per week?
I don't know that off the top of my head. I would say it's a couple $1,000s a day that we're distributing to those stakers. And it's kind of funny to me when you look at DeFi Llama and stuff like that, when they show like, the holder's revenue, like, if you're a V holder, how much your revenue, it doesn't recognize the fact that we are distributing this in these stakers, right? So like our holders are very, very much so rewarded. I mean, you look at you're talking about millions of dollars in those stakers that are paying out 59 from 37 to 61% APR, right? And I think that that's something that's very undervalued, and we like it. That's something that we kind of embraced a long time ago, that swap fees need to feed back to the users that are, one, providing liquidity to even earn those tokens in the first place. Right?
Yeah.
So.
And so one of the things that I've seen, I think it was maybe about 3-4 months ago that I noticed it. You might know the exact date, but you guys almost implemented something like Camelot. You implemented both time locks and like almost like an X Grail.
So what's a token lock? If I can just ask a quick, jump in there with a quick clarification. It's on your UI.
So the token locker, that would be in the more section.
Yep.
That is actually where, like, when projects want to create liquidity and lock it, we provided and created a locker for them to lock their LP tokens or their protocol owned liquidity, right? So that is a safety measure for projects to use for their community's security and safety. So if a new project they do a seed raise and they raise a whole bunch of money, they can use our token locker to go lock that liquidity or those LP tokens so that they can go back and say, hey, we can't touch this. Right. And so that's what this is for. We've seen a lot of times where projects launch and then they pull the liquidity, and this gives users and communities and developers the opportunity to kind of make sure that's not the case.
Yeah. And that will take the pairing and lock it for, what's the max time that you can lock it for?
You can lock it for 100 years if you want to. So
okay.
I don't think anybody's done that far. I think they want to be able to access it before they're dead. But, typical range is you lock it for a few years.
Yeah. All right. Nice. And who are some of the cool projects that have utilized Token Locker?
Friend Pets used it. We actually used it for our protocol on liquidity. A lot of the smaller projects use it and they don't actually tell us about it. But it is utilized quite a bit, and that's one of the requirements when we do have projects come on that want exposure to our community. You've got to lock your protocol and liquidity. We're not going to run the risk of setting our community members up for any nonsense.
Yeah, and so like I was saying, you've almost pulled a Camelot move. Mm-hmm. Of adding both time locking for an LP for added boost for a user, as well as taking a XBSX to stake to nitro boost that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's exactly where we got the inspiration from. So this is our entire NFT pool. Our contracts past Uni V3 are all Camelot, right? And now their front end, obviously, in this space you want to create new stuff, but then when you see somebody that does something really, really good, there's nothing wrong with forking that and saying like, hey, I'm going to take this and I'm going to try to tweak it a little bit to my way. So we actually are the only people to successfully fork Camelot in this fashion, to where we've deployed all the same contracts and the UI is got that same feel. There is nobody else that's gone down this route. It's not easy, and their UI is not public, so we had to build all of this from scratch. With just using their site for inspiration, and it's turned out beautifully. We've done a really, really good job.
So I would say, in looking at base swap and your positioning, one of them is build. So you've you've got the trust positioning that people know who the founders are, but you also have the full-on degen leverage positioning with perps and these reward boosted farms.
Mm-hmm.
So it is impressive how much you built. Is that, where do you feel like that's really helping you?
I think that's helping us with our ability to scale, and be able to, like, right now we're able to deploy essentially Camelot on mode from the get-go, right? And that's a huge advantage, and that takes time. When you're, and I think that goes to the fact that we constantly want to improve our product, right? And so we didn't just start. We did start with just PancakeSwap v2, right? And then we deployed concentrated liquidity, and then we made sure that we had automated concentrated liquidity, and we made sure that we partnered with Merkle, who are astonishing. Those guys are brilliant, in order to reward those concentrated liquidity positions, and then just constantly compounding on what can we do more, what can we do more, what can we do more.
Well, and one of the things you've done that I appreciate is standards. So those Uni v3 contracts, we have market makers that can interact with them. It's more difficult for us to interact with Aerodrome, and they've taken a completely different approach, which is just completely focused on LP rewards, right? With none of the other stuff that you guys are doing. But I appreciate the standardization around Merkle and Uni v3 style contracts.
And I think there's one more thing that goes to that is, in this space we see a lot of exploits, right? We see a lot of guys try to do something that's not tried, true, and tested. I mean, we saw KyberSwap, they had a very unique concentrated liquidity offering, and it was exploited for millions, right? You've seen even Gamma, which is an automated, concentrated liquidity manager, they were exploited. So for us, Uniswap, that team, whatever they put out is as secure as you're going to find in the market. And so for us, we're going to go with what we know is safe, secure, and works. You don't have to rewrite the book. You just need to, put your own spin on it. So, like I said, if somebody does something very well, you can, fall in line with that. That's how you become successful. We look at other successful people and we ask ourselves, how did they succeed, right? You don't just, ignore them and say, I'm going to figure it out my own way. Some people do, but your odds are slightly less. And so I think that's something that a lot of builders don't focus on. Now, granted, you don't want to just be a copycat, but at the end of the day, you want to stick with what works. And so Uniswap, they are the most dominant DEX in the world.
I love the focus on reliability. I hadn't really thought about that. So, for instance, the Solidly guys have the V2. They don't have concentrated liquidity. Now they're adding something they built from scratch called Slipstream. We might see some problems with that. I hadn't thought about that. And thank you.
Yeah, I think that's something, I don't wish that on anybody, because I don't want anybody to lose money, but I do think you run a very dangerous game doing something custom like that. Audits, they don't catch everything. And a lot of times when these exploits happen, those protocols are audited over and over and over again. I mean, you look at even Balancer, right? They're the only ones that do what they do. And they've had exploits, hundreds of them, right? They just happen to be a really good team that make sure that they, compensate people. But, when it comes to that Slipstream thing, I wish them all the best. Personally, I won't be messing with it. Obviously I like to farm on my decks.
So can I just get into some strategy with you? Because you have so many tools for strategy. We are competing against MakerDAO. MakerDAO has a great business model. Their governance is a little erratic, but they have a just fantastic placement and a good product. And there's a real danger, for any DeFi protocol to be just the tiny guy, right? And against Uniswap, which has $1.2 billion in daily volume on a lot of days, right? That's sort of where you end up. similar problem, right? So where's the wedge that you guys are going to use to get to scale in that environment? That's something I can learn from, because as I said, I have to have the same thoughts every day.
Yeah, so I think that is you can't try to do the exact same thing, right? You've got to do something a little bit different, a little bit better, and try to appeal to a certain audience, right? So, you know, on Uniswap, you go to their site, they don't have anywhere for you to, you know, invest in automated liquidity. It's straight manual. That's all you can do. You can go there and you can make manual concentrated liquidity, and that's it. And for us, what we've done is make sure that when you come to our site, you have a plethora of options. You've got a bunch of different things that you can do. And for them, you know, one thing we did is we went with a slightly lower fee than them, so that when it comes to aggregators and things like that, we are the cheapest route.
Now, so do you think that using Base and you know, can you get into the aggregators by going pool by pool, or is it sort of a general fee structure? I'm really fascinated by that, because that's what we have to do to get our sweep into the USD side.
Right. So when it comes to the aggregators, you know, you obviously need liquidity, and that's really the lower the slippage, the lower the price impact. That's where you're going to get the trades, right? So you know, when you look at our USDC pool, right, like that's got 315,000 in liquidity, and that's doing a couple $1 million a day in volume. Now, it's hard to, and I think that what we've tried to do is kind of put a little bit for each pool, right? Because you don't want to focus, for us as a DEX, we need trades to be able to route everywhere on our own, right? So if we were just trying to get one pool through an aggregator, we would send all our rewards to that one pool and go from there. But what we've done is try to kind of spread it out to where we get a little bit of everything. And then as those swap fees come in, it would naturally kind of raise the APR for that. You know, when it comes to sweep, you kind of are able to take a little bit more of a narrow-minded approach, because you don't necessarily need to reward 8 different pool types, right? You don't need, well, you know, I guess you can eventually, and I think that that's something that I think.
Well, the focus, since we're sort of doing protocol owned, to put sweep in against USD, that's one type of pool we have to maintain. We have to create routes with sweep versus USD. But once we've created the routes, then we have to play the game that you're playing. How can we get LPs to build, instead of a USD something versus volatile pool, how can we get them to go in on a sweep versus volatile pool? So that's, you know, one very specific thing that we have to figure out. And is there a way we can strategize to get more business from the aggregators on that?
Right. So, you know, in my opinion, the aggregators are going to adopt the pool no matter what. Right. So what your goal is going to be is just to get liquidity for that pool. And the aggregators are going to, you know, that's one thing I like about aggregators. They don't play favorites. They play what's cheapest. Right. And so that's a great thing, because a lot of us would not have a chance if they played favorites. So I think that's a huge thing, is just making sure that you, you know, really make one pool that is very low slippage. Now, you know, overnight finance, right? They are a rebasing stable coin. They do something kind of similar, but they have something called USD Plus. And, you know, what they do is people mint USD Plus, and then they take the cash that those people minted it with, and then they go farm with it, and then they rebase it. And, you know, if you're just holding the token, and the way that they get, you know, liquidity built, because the more liquidity they have, the more they are able to do, obviously. There's, you know, they just offer straight out of the gate, like, hey, this is what the token would generate. We'll give you 80% of it. And then they just kind of let that compound, because you know, as that 80% grows, we're willing to give them more missions, and it just kind of goes back and forth, back and forth. So like if you're earning on, you know, if it starts out as 100,000 and we're earning 80% of that 10% interest or whatever, and we get it up to $1 million, 10% interest of $1 million is a lot more than what 10% of 100,000 was. And so it can be a real snowball effect. So, you know, for us, you know, with Base Swap, we're going to be happy to help kickstart those pools. And then just in general, you know, you can get dexes to create that LP outside of just Base Swap. You know, you guys are going to be much bigger than just us. We'll help and be happy to build together as far as we can go together. But in general, it should be very easy. Wouldn't say easy, but like it's just cash talks. And so like, hey, we'll give you these incentives. We want this pool created. And then once you get, you know, a niche of users that are, you know, sweet groupies, right, that follow you chain to chain, and they just want to hold sweet, they want to hold the token. It just is, it explodes from there. So I don't think it'll be very hard.
Whoa,
because
all right.
it won't be hard because you're able to inject money into something that is, it's not like you're making a meme coin, right? It's something that's generating revenue. It's more stable with an up curve. That's a much easier sell than somebody that's trying to take a very volatile asset and take it around and get liquidity, right? Like,
yeah, and in fact, our positioning, we use USD Plus as a yield aggregator. They're pretty good at it.
Yeah.
Our positioning is to be a stabilized interest rate, not different, you know, pass through yield every day, and sort of something that you don't have to think about as much. You can just let it sit in a pool. We also don't rebase. Yeah. Because only certain dexes, you guys, I guess, are among them, can handle a rebasing token, and only certain kinds of DeFi pools. So our coin is designed to just go up in value. It can be handled by any pool or any bridge, right? Because the rebasing confuses bridges as well. So there's a lot of design decisions we made to fit into this slot, and now we have to learn from you about how to promote it.
We'll be happy to do it.
Yeah, and you know, I want to take just a quick second to sort of reset, as you know, we've been focusing all on Base Swap, you know, for a minute. I want to take a moment and point out who Base Swap is partnering with in this next step, which is Andy. We're Sweet Protocol.
You guys.
Yeah.
Taco is helping me. Yes, thank you.
Yeah, and it's one of those things to where you were like sweep groupies. I'm like, we're sweepers.
Sweepers.
Yeah, you know. But you know what, Andy? You started to get deep dive into a little bit of what sweep is. You know, like we talked with Madrid. For those that are new and that are coming to us from Base, who are you? And what is sweep?
Sweep is roughly in the category of a yield-bearing stablecoin. Although it's not stable, as I said, we simplify it. So our positioning is this coin will replace non-interest-bearing dollars in DeFi pools as a sweep account for extra dollars in smart wallets and that sort of thing. I think that's an inevitable trend to build in the money market yield. And there's a couple of interesting things about it. One is that we're focusing it on AMM traders. So we're trying to make it the best coin for you to save. So you earn interest if you're not swapping. Bridge, you can go to any of the 7 of the top 9 chains by stablecoin and TVL volume right now. And we'll be expanding that through our layered 0 channel. And swap. So we're actually, as we talked about, investing money to make sure that you have good roots on AMMs, and you can swap it without having to swap into or through the various USDs and bridged USDs and that kind of thing. Really simplify your life. In that sense, it's different from something like Frax, which has a similar product line, but their goal is to make your life more complicated and get you involved in a lot of different kinds of Degen games. Makes it harder to embed as just one thing in a protocol or a pool. So So that's what we're doing with Sweep as a product. And what's interesting about it is we bill it at the savings bank for DeFi. We turn around and place that money through DeFi channels to try to grow the crypto economy. So a lot of that money goes just into regular money market funds like SDI or Mountain. Those are assets actually that we can build on if we can get those assets and get rewards. But we do that on chain. We actually are optimized to do things like do margin lending to borrowers who will buy these tokenized treasury securities and actually grow the tokenized security market. We also offer customized DeFi strategies that are over collateralized, but they're customized strategies that go out to wholesale borrowers. So really trying to grow the economy on both sides by being sort of a community savings bank. And the thing that we haven't done is effectively deliver on that promise to make sure that you have great roots in all your AMMs. And if you're an LP, you're getting rewarded for using Sweep instead of dollars. And those are the things that I was asking Madrid about, because he's going to be so helpful in figuring that out.
Yeah. No, and it's one of those things as Sweep grows. Sweep is now on 7 chains, you know. So, and it's all powered by Layer 0. How have you seen a difference by using OFT, the Omni-Chain Fungible Token, versus just bridging a token over naturally and having a wrapped feature across multiple chains?
The new generation of bridging is not the type of bridging that even the canonical bridges use, where in the old style bridging, you would deposit a coin on one chain and then you would mint a copy of it on another chain. And that creates these honeypots, these pools that can be exploited, like in the multi-chain problem. And so that created a lot of security problems. In the new version of bridging, you actually burn it on the source chain and mint it on the destination chain. So that's one big advantage of these Layer 0 OFTs. Axelar and Chainlink have similar technologies. The other great advantage is that you can go from chain to chain to chain to chain, and you don't have to go back and redeem it in the original spot. So for a while, before Circle really got control of the situation, you had a bazillion different USDCs that were bridged through different chains, and they were just non-fungible and useless because you had to figure out how to redeem them bring them back to the origin. And that with this mint burn process, you don't have to do that. So it's a vastly better type of bridging. And what it's allowing us to do is support the L2 ecosystem and the app chain ecosystem. We can bring up Sweep. If you have AVM and Layer 0, we can bring up Sweep, and immediately we give you a full copy of the protocol where AMM arbitrage, since we buy and sell, we sell and redeem the coin in AMMs. If there's a lot of savers on one chain and we're actually investing in Base because they have great boosted yields, it'll just automatically move through this very simple AMM arbitrage process. And the aggregators are super helpful with that. So it's really using the whole multi-chain ecosystem to support these new L2s and try to once we get the deposits, get funding to them.
Yeah.
And what we'd like to do is build it in. So right now we have to wait for a Layer 0 deployment. But Madrid, I loved what you said about focusing on OpStack chains. For instance, with Polygon, they have this thing called aggregation layers. So once we learn how to use that, Sweep will automatically come with a new Polygon CDK chain. And there might be something similar we can do with OpStack and with Arbitrum Nitro to make sure that every L2 gets this support.
Yeah. Layer 0 has been pretty interesting on what they're building out. And we've been sort of part of the conversations with Layer 0 on where they're moving to next. And, I know on everyone's mind is Solana and stuff like that. Layer 0 is getting ready for that, because that's on the tip of everyone's tongue. And that's the hot thing, as well as AI. And I know we're building out something with AI. Do you want to talk on that, Andy?
Well, sure. So Solana is actually an architectural challenge because we have audited code for EVM. So what we're going to do with Solana is when they open the omni-chain fungible token channel to Solana and SPL tokens, you'll be able to get our sweep token as an OFT. We'll build it as a native SPL token, and you'll get that yield in all of your Solana protocols. But we'll also deploy a full copy of the protocol for lending on Neon, as a stepping stone to supporting the Solana code. And so it's a little bit tricky, but it'll bring the full benefits of Solana ecosystem to sweep. We'll be able to use those assets, and they'll be able to use our asset. On AI, I have a specific position on AI, which is I think it's an operational technology, not a new product technology. When you see companies that succeed because of AI, it's because they're using it in their operations. And our operation, one of our key operations is we have to write these yield aggregation strategies that safely capture collateralized yield from different strategies on different blockchains. And if we can create a pipeline for doing that, where a lot of the coding is AI or AI assisted, and some of the auditing is AI and AI assisted, then that pipeline will run at a much higher volume. We'll be able to support more types of assets and actually raise our return on assets.
Nice. All right. And so, one of the things that we've sort of seen as we're growing into these native dexes that are built that aren't aggregators. And, base swap, was sort of, a fought for choice, to be one of the builders and stuff like that. And so I'm really excited to see what we're able to do with base swap. Madrid, your team has been awesome. You, Jumpman, and we haven't met many others, or I haven't met many others, but how big is your team?
So our core team is 6 members. And then we have some of the most amazing administrators and moderators. And so we've got about 7 of them as well. And those guys do one of the most fantastic jobs and making sure that our community and our users are protected. I would say we probably have one of the safest infrastructures for a community I have ever seen. And our guys take it very seriously, and they do a wonderful job. And they make our job possible and easy because we get to work and they get to handle hundreds of people. They do a very good job.
All right. So is there anything, as we start to wrap this up, I want to thank both of you guys for joining us this morning. I'm super excited for base swap. Any alpha?
We're going to be rolling out our first base swap games labs game, Deep Shot, here in the coming week. It's a top-down shooter. You get to use your native tokens to play and to buy different skins, and it's really, really cool. We've been working on it for a few months, and excited to roll it out. It's going to be one of many. And then we also are deploying a perpetual exchange as well, to where you'll be able to trade, with leverage, and we're basing that off of GMX. So
all right. That's
also very, very, very complicated and taking us a little bit of time, but we're going to do it right.
Yeah, you offer some really cool features that you don't see on many dexes, TWAP, as well as limit, and then you guys have you built in with Axelar, I think, a native bridge as well, so people can go anywhere, which is pretty amazing. Do you use just Axelar, or what else do you use?
So we actually are partnered with Stargate as well. So we offer Stargate Layer 0 bridge as well. I think that our goal when it comes to the TWAP and limit orders and things like that, and we've got an NFT marketplace. We've all been there where you had to go to 5 or 6 different websites to operate in DeFi, and we wanted to create one place that you can go to where you can do it all, and that's really what our goal has been. And I think we've been doing a pretty good job of getting there. And at this point, we just need to refine and continue to get a little bit better.
But speaking of operations, how do you monitor and maintain all of those different features? As a former SaaS guy, and now a guy with very simple kind of DeFi operations on multiple chains, that seems like a concern. How do you do it? Literally, how do you do it, and who does it?
Just having good guys and having good teams. I would say that finding good partners that make the job easy is probably one of the key things. When it comes to the TWAP and the limit orders, we've got a great partnership with Orbs Network, right? And they came in and they helped us build that infrastructure out. Axel, when it comes to their cross-chain bridge, they're very, very helpful with, SDKs and giving us, tools to where it makes it easy. And so when you've got these different guys that, come together, because obviously they want their product used. All right. And so I think that that's what makes it possible is having different projects or different protocols that make it easy and to use their products. And so that's how we've been able to do it. I can tell you we would not be able to become this one-stop shop without having very good partners. And, I'm thankful that we do.
Yeah. No, it's been pretty awesome. So I'm excited to see how you grow. I'm excited to see how we're able to grow with you guys and partner with you. And huge shout out to the entire base community and stuff like that, for doing that and being open arms. We're working on finding other partnerships and stuff like that to help build the ecosystem, because like Andy said, we want to be the replacement for USDT and USDC. Now, not necessarily competitor too, but I say alternative, because we'll be adding value to those pools just naturally and over time. And so that's going to be one of those really interesting and fun things to see. I'm really excited to see what this future holds. Where are people going to be able to see you guys next? Are you guys out in the IRL events on the blockchain?
Yeah, so our entire team will be at ETH Denver. So we'll be attending ETH Denver and ETH Global Pragma, where Jesse Pollock will actually be speaking as well. So we're really excited to get out there and for all the guys to go have some fun and meet some other builders. And, we're really, really excited about it.
Awesome. And we'll Sweep Finance, Sweep Protocol will be at ETH Denver as well. We're going to be at Pragma. We're also going to be speaking at DAO Denver, as well as at Informational Insights. And so we have a couple. I'll be speaking about Sweep in a couple different places to help get eyes on project and hopefully help show eyes on Base Swap as well. Yeah. As an amazing partner. So Andy's been on the show before. Madrid, this is your first time. As we wrap it up, final thoughts and words of wisdom, and then we leave on the best, worst knock joke on the face of the planet that I have told 531 times so far. It has been the same joke. Yeah. So Madrid, to set the stage, final thoughts and words of wisdom.
I think that anybody that's out there, don't stop trying. A lot of builders, a lot of guys, we've all been there. Just keep trying, no matter what you do, put your faith in God, and try and try to be the best person you can each and every day, and it'll pay out. It'll pay off.
Nice. No, and I want to thank you so much for joining the show today. Andy, final thoughts and words of wisdom.
My thoughts are a little more commercial, which is we have some hard problems to solve to get DeFi competitive with CeFi and at the same scale. So we have to keep focusing on that, right? Not just how do we serve the degens, but how do we actually push aside the banks and give them this more transparent, accessible system.
No. All right. No. My final thoughts and words of wisdom are always the same. I've said this 532 times now, but a closed mouth cannot be fed, and you cannot feed a closed mouth, meaning if no one knows you're looking for opportunity will never come a knocking. If opportunity does come knocking and no one answers, it's going to keep on walking. Madrid and Andy, thank you so much for joining us today. We are with Base Swap, the premier decks on base. And me personally, I love you guys. You sort of blow everything else. You know, yes, Uniswap is what everyone knows, but I see you guys out there like an octopus. You have a pool everywhere, especially like in Beefy, you know, which is a great partnership. And, you know, really excited to see what Sweep and Base Swap build together. So this is going to be fun.
Absolutely.
But with this, we end with the greatest, worst knock-knock joke on the face of the planet. Madrid, are you ready for this?
Yeah. What you got?
All right. Knock, knock.
Who's there?